Debonair, intelligent, visionary, intuitive, nuanced, extraordinary, divine. The rose of Sharon meets the dove, my dictionary. Intersex, vividly, imagine now, early, divine. I knew my time would come, but patience not my virtue. Life is funny though, jumping too fast, it should've hurt you. But the dawn is Venus, is intuitive, new emotion, divine. Motion, ocean floating, Billy Rubin ocean. The shit, I am it, this dedicated in Virgo intent, nighting the divine bars lit. Confident language, I dare you to try this. The lane switch, we tackle the abyss. Descend to ascend, straighten to bend. Jamming like Ben, 3-stack, O'Farrell Munchin. Divine. Black thoughts uncommon, but I got common sense. So my comma bun concomitant with comet hits. Dissect my balls to get a PhD in cunning wit. Delving vibrations in known esoterics, divine. My dialogue and verses now expanding. Divine consciousness, over under, understanding. Oh, the path is so demanding. And being real is uncanny. Automatons need nannies. I'll up the ante, because I'm so anti. Dumb, stupid, ignorant, come with something handy. Something I can hold. Some tangible untangies. Meanwhile, I craft balls that dangle like ear candies. D-I-V-E inside the mind of a fine wine that's aged over time. Linguistic gymnastic every time I spit mine. These lines must be read between to find the jewels hidden inside. Divine. Inspiration, needlepoint excellence, divine vibrations, you best believe it. The end conceive it, hands cleave it. I wrote my own religio, so like the script said to do so. My offsprings will have the crystalline milk flow. The honey mix, cinnamon opens the dough. To be the nigga, the ginger, the naga, pretender. Never send back if fake is the endeavor. Yes, I like cheddar, but for the expense of soul essence, never would trade whatever, whenever. Fair or storm weather, we can sing but not talk together. Cause cons get reversed or cursed inside my verse. I wordsmith the game, no need rehearse. The spring burst, vernal equinox, you thirst. I thirst for more to leave your body enriched like iron ore. The divine whore I stir. I'm soft earth from now on and going forth, me and her. Divine. The barren woman becomes the virgin. The baptizer is the revelator come in person. The vicar, the wicker, kindle light flicker in the night sky, come hither. In the winter where the plants wither and the earth is bitter, you will find your great potential, let the seeds enter. The ground with the feces round, the scarab beetles found. A place to lay eggs, nutrients and soil fed. Scorpio flow risen from the frozen dead. This is the word, bar superb. Every noun and verb perfectly formed. I gets down, you heard. Jacob's ladder climbing out of the dirt. The work, Dogun insight. Visors and neon, excellent divine eyesight. Higher than kite, lower than lithium dick sights. We dig through plights to take red light flights at midnight. Type 5 spit right, the true essence of my life. I got a simple message, if you cite it then get it right. Cause this is divine. Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2. Peace to the world. Peace, peace. Peace, Curves and Cosmos. Peace, Akana. Hope all is well. Greetings to everybody out here as we stand on the eve of the last eclipse of this particular eclipse season. It wraps up with a big one. We have the total lunar eclipse. Peace, divine chakras.
Yeah, we got a total lunar eclipse that is approaching at 5:38 a.m. Central Standard Time in the morning of March 3rd. So I wanted to come briefly and talk about this. And as you can see, I think I titled this Mind into Matter. So I want to just speak briefly about this and not let this moment pass and give perspective. And I'll tell you before we start what I'm not really concerned with. I'm not really concerned with what's going on in the Middle East. Um, I'm not going to try to be a prophet um, and give predictions as, you remember I told you 12 years ago that this would come, and I'm not concerned. Um, I'm more concerned with how does energy apply personally, and the the overemphasis and infatuation with trying to figure out what other people are doing is exhausting. And I want to say this: I know a lot of people are coming into a lot of information now, but you got to understand that the time frame of the revelation of information has much to do with its relevance and its significance. I'm sorry for those who are just now discovering a lot of malicious things that have been going on, but you're late. So 30 years ago, when a lot of code breakers were out and a lot of people lost their lives or lost careers, lost finances by being too early with knowing a lot of information, but a lot of people were ignored. A lot of these people were not listened to. Um, Great teachers, great researchers who came and went and um, and were ignored, and now a lot of them are being discovered through such venues as TikTok and maybe Facebook and YouTube. And when you're discovering all this stuff, then it is like getting a taste of some delicious food, and you just want to keep going back. But what you got to understand is that the time is moving a lot faster than it was when that information was coming out. And so there was a window from the late 90s up until like the 2010s, because that was when YouTube was kind of still in its infancy, and the algorithm would give you anything, right? And it was all about if you just show interest. Now it is geared to crystallize a world for you to where you don't even realize that there's trillions of other things going on. But back then, you could stumble across anything if your mind was open to receive it. And and things relative to now were moving a lot slower now. And so what a lot of us did was we became infatuated with this information. I remember um just listening for hours to Bobby Hemmett videos, to Delbert Blair, to um old recordings of Art Bell, Phil Valent, so I understand where people are at. But what you need to understand about where we're at right now, though, it is too late to be infatuated with the information as far as a novelty and you're just wanting to learn this stuff and kind of regurgitate it, you have to go through a crash course now. If you're just now coming into information about possibly how the world really works, you have to get it, but at the same time, you have to be applicable. Like everything you're learning now has to be immediately applicable to your life, or else it is not even worth your time and your consideration. Now, I think I got intelligent people that tap into my content. You know, I hope you. So I'm not gonna say I hope. I know you picking up what I'm putting down. At least the people who need to. The time is over for trying to figure out what's in some files. It don't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is we should have already known that the world is foul and that there are malefic, low vibration energies here that feed on weaknesses, and they are opportunists. And if you leave openings, they will come and prey on it. So instead of trying to figure out what somebody's doing, doesn't common sense say, that lets me know to be extra vigilant about protecting my seeds. Beyond that, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. We don't even know what is presented to us, if it's real or if it is fictitious, on all stages. When we see videos of conflicts, when we see videos of so-called tragedies, or this event happened in Austin and such, you don't even know if it's real. We're in this strange position where you have to have the ability to have maximal discernment to determine what you want to pay attention to, and to know when there is something that is worth your attention, and how to look at something as no more than a World Wrestling Federation, professional wrestling. Whether that's the war, whether that's somebody's mama supposed to be missing, whether it's somebody beefing, whether it's this, all WWF, all Vince McMahon. And that's my lead in to the discussion about the upcoming total lunar eclipse. And I felt like I needed to lean in with that because I have never in almost 50 years of life seen what not every week, every day, there's a new something to hold your attention. This is amazing. I mean, it is like pulling out all the stops. And so it's letting you know, obviously, where the attention needs to go. The attention really does need to go on self, and what the eclipse, especially a lunar eclipse. And that's how we'll lead into the actual conversation. The lunar eclipse and a total lunar eclipse. That means that the eclipse is occurring so close to the nodal axis that by position, the moon or the earth is directly in between the light of the sun as it shines onto the moon, and therefore it is completely blotted out. It is eclipsed. You can't see it. Now, we live, whether we want to accept it or not, we live in a reality that is based on symbolism. Because that's the only reason the eclipse matters, is because of symbolism. because it's all about perspective. From our perspective, there's a symbolic blocking of the light. Just like symbolically, it appears that a planet moves retrograde. A planet does not move backwards, but symbolically, we have this belt that goes around us that we call the zodiacal belt. And as that planet starts to move, when it gets to the other side, it looks as though that planet is going backwards from our perspective. And because our existence here is governed greatly by symbolism and the apparent motion and the appearance of things, it has an effect on us. So, because from our vantage point, that light is blocked for that momentary time, it has an effect. And the total lunar eclipse means that we're supposed to take this time to be quiet, to be contemplative. And this is even as the world gets louder. You notice how the world is getting louder and louder and louder. And do you feel like the world is encroaching on you, that it is coming towards you and trying to squeeze, you're going to see me, you're going to pay me some attention, right? That's what the world is doing right now. I want your attention. Just look at me. Just look at me. Look. That's what the world wants. And so especially at the time of this eclipse, we're having to be introspective, reflective, and to go inward, especially. Yeah, we're always supposed to be working to do that, but especially at this time. This is a time of reverence. This is not a time of gimmicks. Hey, I'm going to get we're going to do a ritual for the full moon. And this ain't a time for none of that gimmick shit. This is personal. This is not energy you play with. This is where you sink into the I am, which is you. And you become more acquainted with it. You realize how sacred you are, how sacred your I am is, your internal I am. Keyword internal. Because when we have this total lunar eclipse, there is a momentary disruption in the internal flow. And to understand a lunar eclipse, think about an electric circuit. And so we're going to first deal with what's a solar eclipse? It's a disruption in the voltage, the potentiality of electrons to be dispersed. Is outward. It's the pressure going out because it's the sun. So that's why we can have a disruption in life force, the expression of life force, vitality. Well, when a voltage comes in, you have to have amperage, which is what the moon deals with. Amperage is the ability of the electrons to flow within the circuit. So it's just like when you're looking at, your health astrology, your sun kind of tells you your the nature of your constitution. But the moon is showing you how energy is able to flow within you. That's why somebody can look super strong on the outside and be very frail energetically because they look strong voltage, but there ain't a lot of amperage flowing within. We are taking time to assess our amperage at the lunar eclipse, because temporarily we're cut off. We're cut off from the cosmic source or our life force, which is the sun. We're in a solar system. So now we're having to run on reserve batteries, and we're having to take time to assess that inward flow of energy. And that's why it's a sacred time. And I guess as you get older, you really understand more and more as we are privileged to see ourselves go around that sun, more and more. We understand more and more what it means to be sacred. The sacredness of our I am, right? So that's the setting. That's the setting of this total lunar eclipse. And I want to do something. I'll see if I can share my chart here, share the screen to show the chart for this for in the morning, for at the time of the eclipse. But something I want to just some more context around this lunar eclipse. It's a change, because for you to have a lunar eclipse, it's occurring at a full moon, right? So the moon is the focal point. And whenever we have a full moon, we have an opposition between the sun and the moon. Whenever we have an opposition, we have tension. And another word for tension is resistance. And Saturn is the planet that rules over resistance and tension. And so I want to talk about just, when you have tension and resistance, that's this type of that's climactic tension. It tends to produce some type of change or some type of realization. Full moons bring the waters bubbling up. The waters on the earth, the waters in our body, they rise at the time of the full moon, which is why people tend to bug out at the full moon, because pressure in the brain, right? And that skull can't expand. So it's just like, "Rrr." This is why a lot of babies are born at this time, because, water breaks, pressure build up. But this full moon possibly is producing a change or climax in our feelings about humanity. Because Virgo is about dealing with the earth realm, right? I also wrote here, it's a realization of how successful or unsuccessful we've been at integrating spiritual understanding into the three-dimensional world. I want to say that one again. This total lunar eclipse partly is dealing with a realization of how successful or unsuccessful we've been at integrating. Listen to these key words. Virgo, the axis of Virgo and Pisces, deals with integration and disintegration. disintegration. So in other words, Virgo is merging things together to prepare the vessel to move out into the world. Virgo's the last sign under the horizon. So Virgo is doing all the work, integrating the experiences of the first 6 houses, because those first 6 houses are really where we're eating, right? Taurus, we're eating. Cancer, we're receiving the food. Virgo, we're digesting the food. And when we digest, we are extracting, we're identifying what needs to go, but also we're dealing with the reabsorption of nutrients, the integration into the system so that we can then move out and do our work in the public sphere. We can go out into the world. Virgo is integrating so that we can do work here in the 3D. Well, Pisces is disintegrating. It is dissolving. It is because it is understanding and filtering all of these experiences. It's having to break it all down, break them all apart, right? So that everything that was coagulated can be solved or become a solvent. And then by breaking things apart, everything becomes one mass. Nothing has an identity. It's all broken down. And so that is what we would liken to the realms beyond the 3D, where our egos are broken down, where we're dealing with the large animals, whereas Virgo deals with the small animals. That's a clue. The small animals are dealing with our human experience. The large animals are dealing with the spiritual experience, that which is not confined to the rigors of the 3D. So this total lunar eclipse is asking us, how have we been able to integrate North Node in Pisces? The spiritual, have we been able to integrate the spiritual into our 3-dimensional lives? Have the things that we've been talking about, studying, videos, books, have they all just been theoretical? Church, beating your tambourine every day. It's every Sunday at church, and going to 10,000 prayer meetings and 10,000 Ramadans and all these, how have these things actually translated into my physical walk? Have they all just been exercises of ritualism and repetitivism or repetitive action? We're dealing with the karma around our tendencies toward analysis paralysis. We're dealing with the karma of it. What do I mean? Virgo is analytical. And if we didn't have the analytical aspect of Virgo, we wouldn't be able to live. We wouldn't have a vessel to even operate out of, you know? So I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so the downside though of Virgo is becoming over infatuated. That's not the word I wanted, but obsessed with just or burdened with just overly analyzing things. But what about this? What about this? And oh my God, but that's not right. That's not perfect. Critique. And it can and the worst can be just overly critiquing oneself. to where the point where you don't have no confidence in nothing you do because you want to try to make sure that every little decimal lines up and that you carry the three. And, you know, are you stuck in analysis paralysis? Are you stuck watching life go by? I told this story on TikTok. The story about how I told the story about how I tore my ACL, partially tore my ACL my freshman year in high school. I was they moved me up to the varsity. You know, so I come from 8th grade in junior high. We get to ninth grade at the high school. We were the first class where they brought the ninth grade to the high school. They moved me past JV. I went right to varsity. So I'm 14 years old. Some of these dudes are 18, some of them 19. It's a big difference when you're a teenager between 14 and 18. Big difference. So I didn't understand yet how to move at the speed that I needed to move at that level. The game gets much faster. And so a play was over and I was standing by the pile and some people were still going and they rolled into my knee. Right. And so I ended up missing, like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 games, maybe about 3 games. I think I missed my freshman year because of that injury. And what I learned was, one, keep your knees bent. Never be caught standing flat-footed with your knees locked, right? Always be in the ready position. Another thing I learned was how to move faster. Never be caught standing still. Always be in action. Always be moving. And always move with a certain degree of assertiveness and aggressiveness, controlled aggression. And when you do that, you're less apt to get injured. Now, what is that analogy? What was I trying to demonstrate with that analogy? That when you're caught in the state of analysis paralysis, you'll be the equivalent of me standing around the pile, flat footed, knees locked, ain't ready for action. Here comes danger. Bam, takes my knee out. So if I had still been engaged and moving with a sense of urgency and moving with the proper aggression that I needed based on the environment I was in, probably wouldn't have got hurt. If you are living your life or have been living your life in a state of analysis paralysis, this eclipse may be coming to help you have an internal shift in your amperage to where there's this momentary disconnect. And when it comes back online, maybe it jolts you into a state of realization like, whoa, I've been standing by the pile. I've been watching the game go by, not moving. I got caught lacking. And the analysis paralysis is sometimes because, we don't trust in the connection with the energies that are beyond what we can see. See, Virgo is the show me state type of energy. I need to see it. Practical, hands-on. How is that going to work? Well, that's not practical. How is that going to? Sometimes you need to invite the unknown into your reality. And we spent so much time talking about the coming Aquarian age that we especially in the West, we tend to overemphasize one side of a scale, and it always keeps us in an imbalance. Belief that we talked about with the Piscean age, nothing is ever as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems. Somewhere in between reality lies. That's what one of my college coaches used to say. So Pisces is the energy of the never ending story. The little boy who was bullied, and he would go and he would lose himself into his little books, and his imagination would run, and he never could imagine at first that the story was really about him. Right, the never ending story. So Pisces is the energy of belief and imagination. Although it was used harmfully during the Piscean age by malefic forces who created false beliefs, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what I'm trying to say. You need all 12 energies are significant. And Pisces invites us to allow our mind's eye to roam and to stand at the bank and see what is floating by. Because everything exists. Anything you can think of, any thought is already in the ocean, the sea of potentiality. Your thoughts really and your ideas are just you standing at the bank when it came by and you stuck your net out and grabbed it. And so, what Virgo has to allow for is for the involvement of its sister sign on the axis, which is Pisces. Everything can't be about what you can see and touch and put your hands on. So this might be bringing things to us to where we are forced to realize that I can't move only when I have the perfect plan set up, because life may create a situation that forces you to move without knowing exactly how every little thing lines up. That's what I mean by this. This eclipse is bringing some spiritual resistance. It's upgrading your powers of manifestation. Spiritual resistance upgrades your ability to pull imagination into realization. You need resistance. The circuit needs to have resistance. If there's too much resistance, the energy can't flow. But conversely, if there's too little resistance, the energy does not have the conductivity. You need the right amount of resistance to guide the voltage into the circuit. And that's what struggle is necessary for. That's what struggle is necessary for. And with this moon in Virgo, we see that Virgo moon, although it's not technically debilitated, that's a tough placement for the moon because it can really breed self-doubt. It really, really can breed self-doubt, because if the Virgo moon needs to feel needed, it needs to feel like it is organizing something, it's putting things in order. It needs to feel like it is striving towards perfection. It needs to feel like it is useful. It needs to feel like it knows it needs a how. Virgo moon needs to know how it's going to work out. So what is going to plague a Virgo moon the most? Not knowing exactly how some shit going to work out. Virgo placement is a place where we're learning what faith really means outside of a religious institution, but just independently. What does that word really mean? What does it mean to trust? What am I trusting in? See? So that trust just becomes a random objective term, but we have to ground it in trust in what? And that's the difficulty for that Virgo energy, because what am I trusting in? Faith in what? My faith is in my good works, and I do, but no, but what if that shit don't matter at a particular time? It does matter, but what if right now that ain't enough? And if you don't have any true spiritual currency to pull on right now, that's the dilemma. That's the dilemma. If you don't really have something to ground you, I said I had to learn to keep my knees bent. If your knees are bent, that means I'm grounded. I'm grounded. What are you grounded in? Are you grounded in the work you do through the three-dimensional world? Is that it? Is that really where your faith has been based? And man, have you truly discovered the great I am? This time we're in right now is, in my humble opinion, is asking that. We have, I'm gonna see if I can share my screen quickly. Let me see where we at. 9:38. Okay. I'm gonna see if I can share screen share. I want to, let's see, let me find my, okay, I'm gonna share that. So here's the chart for the eclipse in the morning. I've got this set for Central Standard Time, 5:33 a.m. Okay. And I want you to look at this. Let's see if I can find me something where if I can I don't know if I have anything where I can highlight what I'm talking about. Manage layouts. No. Okay. Well, I got my cursor over. I don't know if you can see my cursor moving. Okay. Either way, you see Mars is in Pisces. Okay. And you see Neptune is in Aries. What's significant about that? They have, by modern rulership standards, mutual reception. You see that? Mars is in Pisces. Neptune is in Aries. And I'm going to tell you on a personal note why this really hits home for me. It's because in my chart, I was born with Neptune right on my ascendant. And I've made this statement before, but I want to reiterate it. The world now is experiencing a glimpse of what I have experienced in these 49 years. The world is getting a glimpse of it because your first house carries the energy of what? Aries, regardless of what sign is on the first house cusp. That house carries the energy of Aries because it's your identity. It's your I am. It's your seed. It's all the potential. So I want to tell you some things that I have experienced. Loneliness, overwhelm, feeling like being attacked, and at times confusion about the energy that I emit. Those are different times in life. And it's such an ironic thing. It's ironic to feel like the world is moving in on you like a tidal wave, but at the same time feeling lonely. And that's some crazy shit. And so right now, Neptune is in Aries and gonna be there for about the next 14 years or so. And we collectively may feel like the world is encroaching upon our little individual world. But here's the mercy of the divine is that Saturn and Aries, to a degree, although it's Saturn, look, Saturn is debilitated in Aries. Make no bones about that. There are difficulties. It can produce this unchecked rebellion and this resistance to maturity. But Saturn, though, in its essence, though, provides resistance. It sets boundaries. So Saturn riding with Neptune for this initial point is mercy, because it is helping to set boundaries, helping us to see where we need to put healthy walls around ourselves. Everything got to have walls. Our cells have walls. They have membranes, right? And if you don't have the key, which are the enzymes, if you don't have the right key, you can't get in. Everything needs to have boundaries, because all energy should not be available to everyone, right? So I wanted to highlight that. Now, we can't overlook the fact that during this eclipse, why it's such a doozy too, is that Mercury's retrograde and debilitated at the same time. And so we have a south node total lunar eclipse with the moon, in Virgo, wanting to know, I want to see the plans for this thing. I want to see the blueprint. There ain't one. And on top of it, it's being received by a Mercury that is in the land of scatterbrain. It's in Pisces. And this ain't no slight to people with Mercury and Pisces, because everything, there's a coin, there's a spectrum. The other side of that scatterbrain energy of Mercury and Pisces is a level of creativity that is beyond imagination, right? Because the Mercury in Pisces is in tune with an infinite orchestra that you can't even hear. And they're hearing horns, they're hearing clarinets, they're hearing trombones, they're hearing boom, boom, boom. They're hearing all of the sounds of the spheres. They're hearing them. And that can produce chaos, but because that's the price they have to pay. They're able to hear all of the divine spheres, but the price they pay is they hear all of the spheres, right? Oh, Mercury and Pisces in the 12th. You know. Yes. But see, you know how to deal with this though. That's a reward. You had to live with it, but you know how to deal with it. So it is I have so many things I have to come back and tell you about some of the amazing things that I've had, because I'm gonna have to come back, because it's my family came, spirit realm type of energy of some amazing things happen that I'll come back. I'll come back and we'll double back on that. Okay. What else we got going on? So Mercury's retrograde. We cannot lean on just our logic. It ain't enough. It's not enough. But at the same time, we cannot be delusional because Venus is applying to Neptune. Oh man, we got to be careful about people telling us all the stuff we want to hear. Right? And Mercury's hovering around Neptune. That shit might not be the truth. Oh, baby, shit, man. I'm ready to settle down. I met you, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm done. I'm ready to turn my boat in. You the last fish I ever wanted to catch. Just this is. You got to be careful with this energy, right? That you got your rose-colored glasses on. So at one point, we can't be burdened by trying to um over logic things, but we can't be delusional. So that means what do we have left but the actual power of the breath, which is what spirit means, breath. Like really having to listen to the inner voice, the as brother Hank Rising says, the great I am. The great I am. What is it saying? That's what you got to listen to. What else we got going in the sky right now? We have the one hard aspect I do see at the time of this eclipse is the fact that I think it was Mercury is in and applying semi-square to Pluto. Because when Mercury moves back to 19, it will be in a semi-square to Pluto. Now, what does that mean? It means our mind is forced into, or invited is a better. It is strongly invited into the consideration of the underworld, meaning our minds are being pulled. Like, this is subconscious. It's subconscious. We're being forced to deal with our demons. We're being forced to go not just within, but down into the basement. We're dealing with the things that we have not wanted to look at. You know what's crazy? We are earning spring in 2026. We earning it. Cause this eclipse is going by while Mercury's retrograde, and when does Mercury move direct? On March 20th. So we are paying our dues for this spring coming up. Because I feel like summer of 2026, there's some big things could pop. Why? Because, Jupiter moves in the Leo, and it's going to harmonize with Saturn after they had their battle back in 2023, 24. Now they're kind of like, well, they went on Maury Povich, you are the father, and it's like, I'm gonna be here for you. I'm gonna love you anyway, Jupiter, and they working out their shit, right? But we having to earn it. We having to earn our way just to the vernal equinox. And this Pluto Mercury aspect is saying, you must go down into the dungeon mentally. You must figure out, why do I think the way I do? Why do I speak the way I speak? Like, how is my mind structured? Right? It's like the Sufi book, Alone with the Alone. All right. Okay. One thing I wanted to go back to about the with this Aries and Pisces and Neptune and Aries, these are a lot of energies around identity, ego, but let's put it into the framework of ascendancy, the ascendant, and the ascendant in health astrology is like the resistance. Remember I talked about the resistance earlier. Now, when we look at resistance from an electrical perspective, it's the measure of opposition to the flow of current in an electrical circuit. It's influenced by the materials, properties, the length, the cross-sectional area, and the temperature. So the resistance, which coincides with the ascendant, that the flow or the opposition is influenced by the materials, properties, the length, cross-sectional area, and the temperature. So your environment, your makeup, all these things is how is this energy able to flow within? So Saturn again here in Aries is giving us resistance. This full moon total lunar eclipse is providing resistance because the opposition aspect is one of resistance and tension. Resistance. My grandmother, Capricorn sun, used to say, it's good for people to struggle. Listen, y'all, don't be afraid to struggle. It won't kill you. Trying to avoid struggle is what will do you in. I'll say this again. Struggle will not kill you, but trying to avoid struggle will do you in. I bear witness to that. All right. So I want to conclude our little chat here I want to read something. The namesake for our little lecture tonight. This is by Fred Allen Wolf, Mind into Matter. So I want to read you a few little paragraphs out of here. I realized this alchemical force in nature through the most basic recognition that I, myself, exist at a boundary between the two seemingly distinct regions within the known universe, the real and the imaginal realms. Now, what does that strike? Does that strike a chord with y'all? What does that sound like? Exist at a boundary between the two seemingly distinct regions within the known universe, the real and the imaginal realms. Tell me, what two signs does that sound like? What two signs does it sound like? Does this sound possibly applicable to this time, this moment in time that we're in right now? Let's see if y'all awake, if I ain't put y'all to sleep out there. Tell me in the chat. What two signs does this apply to? He says he sounds like right now. What's up, Natasha? It sounds like right now that you, the great I am, you stand in between real Virgo. Akana, you got Pisces right, but the axis is Pisces and Virgo. distinct regions between the known universe, the real Virgo, and the imaginal realms, Pisces. There y'all go. The Virgo Pisces axis. While we sense this individuality in ourselves, we assume without question that others also sense it. Hence, we go through our lives sensing that each of us is alone, somehow locked inside of a body, and yet completely able to realize that another also exists with this same sense of bounded existence. Buddhists refer to this isolation as dukkha, or suffering. We experience a sense of lack, loss, or withdrawal from the world in some way. I'm gonna skip down. Now I'm gonna read this. Some of us from time to time suspect that others are able to transcend this lonely boundary. Perhaps a few of us have also felt, if only momentarily, that we may have actually done so ourselves. But most of us feel quite separate and alone, well within the skins that define our bodily boundaries. Most of us feel this way nearly all of our waking lives. In describing this dichotomy, one might also use words such as body and mind, objective and subjective, outer and inner, and so on. But no matter how one defines these realms, they must be dealt with simply because each of us, is singly aware of the dichotomy, the continual awareness of one realm, the real or bodily, at the expense of the other, the imaginal or mental, usually leads to some sort of disaster in a person's life. Think about it. We are here at the total lunar eclipse, and we're standing in the axis between the real and the imaginal. And we may be feeling like we need to choose, right? But he's saying, for example, to be completely aware of your body while having no awareness of your mind would make you narcissistic. On the other hand, to ignore your body and pay attention to your mind alone would have an equally dire but opposite effect. You could ignore obvious signs of bodily injury, for example, and dismiss profuse bleeding or a broken bone. You might also have little or no feeling for others, viewing them as if they were merely mechanical devices or intelligent robots. Yet, awareness of both of these realms, real and imaginal, mind and body, is not enough to become successful in controlling them. We must learn to move our intent at our command between the two realms. You must apply. It is about application. We no longer can be voyeurs. We must recognize the force of mind on matter and also recognize how the force of matter on mind arises. This is somewhat like a form of Tai Chi, or possibly the recognition of Chi, of how Chi arises. All right. Now, I want to skip down. Okay, I want to read this. See, this is some good stuff. This is the first secret of alchemical creativity. Learn to become aware of the mind body split and the point at which our unconscious mind influences our body. To do this, we need to become aware each time we feel resistance arising within ourselves. We're coming back. Uh-oh, my mic is out. Can y'all hear me? Mic check. No sound? Mic check, mic check. Can somebody let me know? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. All right. We good. All right. Let me keep rolling. Now, remember, I talked about resistance earlier, right? The resistance is a measure of opposition to the flow of current in an electrical current circuit. So, how is the current coming in? How is it being met? All right. So, he goes on to say, we need to learn to become aware each time we feel resistance arising within us. Um, Without resistance, nothing comes into existence. Resistance ties mind to matter in in spite of science's materialistic attempt to prove mind non-existence. A good teacher uses resistance to an advantage when dealing with a difficult student. Skipping down. When the universe becomes aware of a rising resistance, the same resistance you and I experience when we discover a new idea, the universe comes into being and becomes self aware. It transforms information into matter, giving rise to physical objects, and transforms matter into information, giving rise to a mental universe that models the physical. Resistance arises in each transformation. This is the transformational processes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is magic that he's really talking about. This is a science book, but this is magic. And this is giving us evidence of the significance of Saturn. We always think of Saturn as just this rigid taskmaster, get it done. No, you don't pass. No, you cheated. Go back, repeat that grade again. But Saturn rules over resistance. So here we have a total lunar eclipse. And for there to be a lunar eclipse, there has to be a full moon opposition between the sun and the moon. And whenever there's an opposition, it is an aspect of resistance and tension. And you need resistance to test your gangster. Everything shouldn't be allowed to just flow easily. The circuit needs a certain amount of resistance for there to be adequate power flow. I'm not no electrician, so I'm speaking in very crude layman terms, but I got common sense. I can understand concepts, and my mind knows how to think in a nuanced fashion. I can see how this is a universal reality that's unfolding or understanding, right? The resistance is where the magic happens. Don't run from it. Sometimes we're stuck within a state of analysis paralysis because we are afraid of making a mistake, because we associate the mistake with pain. A lot of us have dealt with a lot of pain, a lot of disappointment. We're like, man, I do not want to go back and have to relive that. But you have to some degree, and it's all about a measuring and a juggling and a balancing. You got to allow some of the energy of the fool to come in. You got to be the fool sometimes. Put your stick on your shoulder, got your little knapsack, and you like, and you know that the mother becomes the fool as soon as the baby's born. She forgets all about all that pain as soon as she sees that baby. And that's why she'll go and have another one. Because once the baby comes, she forgot about all the shit she'd been through. The fool has his in some illustrations, the fool got his clothes torn. There's either a little dog or a little cat nipping at his ankles, and that in one regard that could be the past. That could represent the past, nipping at his ankles, trying to, hey, don't forget, and he ain't even noticing nothing. The fool is about to step off of a cliff, but his head is up, not even paying attention. Sometimes we have to allow a little bit of that energy in and stop being so afraid of failing because we're afraid of the suffering and we're afraid of some resistance. And the moment we feel some resistance, we're ready to collapse because past failures and mistakes, sometimes, boy, they take a big hit at our confidence. And, you know, and we get to a point where we stuck in stasis. So this is a time for us to go within, remember that you are the great I am, but not from an egoistic standpoint. I'm not supporting foolishness, but I do support a healthy dose of being and allowing the full spiritual energy into play. And you have to figure out how to balance it out in your life using your good sense, right? But we do know that astrology gives us some keys to help us understand maybe which one needs to be incorporated more. The North Node is in Pisces. Lean not on thine own understanding. It ain't always about what you can see and touch. You must see it first in your mind's eye. And that is what the potter starts forming. You're forming the vision that was in here. The potter has already seen the bowl before he get it on the wheel. He's just bringing what he has seen, or he or she has seen. They are bringing it into reality on the bowl, but that ain't where the bowl originated. It started in their mind's eye. And on that note, I'm going to sign off and bid y'all good evening. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. You know, it's a pleasure to be able to share with enlightened people. Peace to everybody who came in as we were going. I appreciate y'all for dropping your jewels in the comments. If you haven't already, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Help a brother out. You can like the video, share it on your Facebook or wherever your socials are at. And you know, if you peace, woke ones, all right, salute. Yeah, if you need to have deeper discussions about just, you know, how to move through these times for you, you know, with your universal cosmic blueprint, then I can help you by assessing and breaking down your birth chart. And I got a host of other readings. My mind is still, but 720astrology.com is where I get down. And I will be back because I got to come back and I got to talk about these miraculous things that happen, you know, leading up to this eclipse, just with voices from my family's ancestry coming back to speak to me and giving me some information I've been trying to get for years. Peace, Akana. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Of course, y'all know to know the stars, to know yourself, and always stay down till you get up. And when you get up, stay down. We're going to leave out with a little something. Peace.
Minus the mazel tov, the melancholy mask is on. The matrix turns to marathon for those who are masculine, and God forbid if melanin is showing through your epiderm. You consider it epidemic, public enemy one. This manuscript is written on the membrane of a Macedon. Prehistoric pantheons will never die. Carry on. Caravans of canons, Moabites and Seance. The oppressors prey on and look for ground to lay on. Then get bit by a lion, Judah, a lion. These words get sprayed on the wall that fate's on. When the ship come, we phase on. The shift is a phaeton. The burden weighed a ton and suddenly is gone. Yeah, it's the subtle things that make your Aki's heart sing. The bellows from the diaphragm where honey's made from bees' wings. The laughter of a child brings some balance to the bloodstream. When war is at your front door, some peace is a welcome thing. It's the subtle things that make your Aki's heart sing. Aquatic drips from full springs from under earth where life clings. Better than ever, the word in every endeavor. Better than clever, the truth is wisdom ever. If you should doubt it and attempt to count it, just know that this is powered by the force no time devours. No army cowers, no hate can sour. Cause on this hour, the seed flowers. Before the switching of scenes, let's hope that life finds its means. Allegiance to the right team. The murky water's now clean. The darkened path is now seen. The subtle things are now gleaned. The hero conquers the fiend. Ballast achieved on the beam. As this discovered in a time capsule in future times. Just know in this era there existed an enlightened mind. He carried water and within his essence was divine. Seated 3 daughters and the sun whose brilliant lights would shine. This type of light, let's be honest, is a rare kind. He aged gracefully, not hastily, fine wine. The word is arguably the artistry of the Arcanine. Articulate armory in the arteries is aquanine. Abhorrent to authorities with alliances, the sciences, defiances, the answers to truly finding this. Ein is first, Ein soft second, Ein soft earth. Check it for the record, he is vested, he is tested. Gold a product from the dark, wet, ingested. Mic check it, 1-2 bipedal. Babes and fetals, prodded with needles, protected nightly by scarab beetles. Not John, Paul, or Ringo, peep the lingo. Awakened souls moving step like the rhythms equal. Beautiful flowers growing up from fecal. Matters not if not approved by the people. The word.